Homework assignment number 2, kids, it's the vacuum cleaner. Let's do a quick review of the whole course thus far. Number 1, the first thing we learned was structure of how to write paragraphs. We said that a paragraph is going to entail a topic, sentence, and details at the end, and we are going to have those details support our topic sentence. If we have a passage now, and the passage is going to be created of paragraphs, say we have 4 paragraphs, each topic sentence will be at the top of each paragraph. How we can relate these back together is look at the topic sentences and try and find the noun and the verb that relate back. What I just suggested there was number 2, the Scooby-Doo technique. Scooby-Doo says the same thing, but it's going to change the vocabulary words around. Each one of your topic sentences is going to have to be related back to the previous topic sentence. All of those, according to Scooby-Doo, all those paragraph topic sentences have to say the same thing, the same general concept. For example, if this says soccer is great, football is fun, hockey is interesting, you know that if you opened it up, that hockey, soccer, and football all are dealing with sports. Therefore, they have to say the same thing. The Scooby-Doo technique, therefore, will open it up and make it more broad. Number 3, we talked about the author switching vocabulary words around in Scooby-Doo. To follow and keep on track, we can label those new words plus, minus, or N for neutral. Just simply circle the word and label it plus, minus, or neutral. In the paragraph details, those details are going to have to support your topic sentence. If they give you a wacky word that you're not familiar with, label it plus, minus, or neutral. Have a quick look back at your topic sentence and take it from there. This is important for answering questions as well. For example, if one of the details is labeled positive, you know the answer will have to emulate that in the correct answer choice. Number 4, we talked about the author's timeline. It's a continuum. Not always, but a lot of times they will give you background information and progressively move forward into more current events and potentially could even go into the future. This is important for us to understand where we are in the timeline for the author and then try and predict, keep ourselves engaged. Where is the author going to go? And constantly keep spot checking to make sure that you're on track. Number 5, we talked about cultural coding. Cultural coding is basically taking information from the environment that we've learned before, applied into a new scenario. That's how you get smart, kids. Learn something and then learn something else and then try and make a connection between the two. In order for you to understand this passage, we have to have some background. For example, Fort Christina. Fort, when I was a kid, I watched a cowboy movie that talked about Fort Apache. That was a big wall around a complex where there was a bunch of settlers. And the reason they put a big wall around there was because they wanted to keep people out. They wanted to keep the Indians out. So here I know that Fort Christina is probably a bunch of big walls surrounding a community. And the reason they have big walls around the fort is because they want to keep somebody out of there. Let's see if that's true when we go through the passage here. I haven't even read it. I'm just cultural coding this passage here. Number 5, cultural coding. Once again, taking information from somewhere else and making this passage you're reading more enjoyable, more understandable because you're relating it back to what you already know. Number 6 is dealing with structural clues. Think of a road sign. If you're not really sure where you are, what do? You look at the road sign. If it says that you are on 29th Street, oh, you need to get to Grandma's who lives on 37th. You need to go another 8 blocks. So use these structural clues as signs to help you figure out where you are in the timeline and follow along with the author. For example, if you see the word but is a flag flip-flopper, so you know that the two sentences are going to go opposite. Before and after are going to be opposite. Label it plus, label it minus, and so forth using the good stinky rule. And number 7, we talked about word prefixes. This is going to help you answer questions, follow along, and not get tripped up with words. You must feel a lot more comfortable now that you understand that the words in here are going to be basically repeating from what they said in the topic sentence. We're going to see words if the topic sentence is positive. You can take a wild guess that the details down here that are new words are probably going to be positive words as well. If you have the understanding of how words are put together with the root in the middle, the prefix in the beginning, and the suffix at the end, you are going to be able to diagnose and understand what the word means and understand that vocabulary word. We've gone over several times the word replay, and we know that the word play means to play, and the prefix re means to do it again. You're going to do it again, play it again. Replay the event, rerun. Re means to do it again. So if you don't know what the root word is, if you look at the prefix, it will give you a hint as far as what the word actually means. Then we could use the good stinky rule, we could use the Scooby-Doo technique and so forth to try and figure out what that means. Also, cultural coding, we can try and take a wild guess and apply this topic to what we already know to understand what that new vocabulary word means. And finally, lesson number 8, we are dealing with a vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner is basically answering questions. Take the word out, plug the new word in, and see which one sounds the best using your ears. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first, we'll do a very, very quick overview of this passage using our techniques, and then we'll answer the questions. 1, here's the title. It's about a fort. Here's the topic sentence. It says, the king of Sweden had an idea to establish a colony in the New World. On March 29th, 2 ships from Sweden sailed. They landed in America, and in America they went ahead and established a Swedish community. So we have establishing a Swedish community in the New World. The New World is another Scooby-Doo for America. Now, you see that we have the word fort here, which you've seen this before. It's a complex with a huge wall around it. Now, you know that they're going to say something about danger down over here. Let's see if that's true. You come over here. It says there's a community. The Dutch owned that area, and the Swedes went in. And what happened? There's constant friction. So you can assume that there's a fort, and they're going to keep the Dutch out. Then over here, it talks about the Dutch building certain little log cabins and so forth, and then it goes into explaining the log cabins. It's a quick overview of this passage. Let's jump on in and take a look at practice problem number 1. Number 1 says the main idea of this paragraph. Main idea is going to come from the topic sentence. We see that we have a king from Sweden wants to establish a colony in the New World. The New World, we already said, was going to be America. A Swedish colony in America. Let's go over here, take a look at the answer choices starting with number 1. Number 1, process of elimination, single pass, and then cross out what you know is wrong, and then come back and look at the ones a little closer. Usually you'll be able to cross out 2 right away. A, the Dutch took over Fort Christina and sent the Swedes home. The Dutch never really took over the fort and sent them home. So I feel like that's kind of off topic here. Let's put a dot by it anyways, because it does contain all of our key terms here. B says Fort Christina's demise. Well, that feels like it's a negative word right away from the topic sentence, so let's go ahead and cross that one out. C says the Swedes brought the log cabin design to America. That's true. And D says colonization of America by the Dutch and the Swedes. So it fails miserably to talk about that second paragraph here. That second paragraph is building the log cabins. We need an answer choice that is going to entail the Dutch, the Swedes, and it's going to have to say something about these log cabins or the design. So the best answer choice here is going to be Swedes brought the log cabin to America. Number 1, C, is the correct answer here. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Scrolling on down. Number 2 is a structural clues problem. Structural clues, there are 2 in this passage. Let's go ahead and take a look and see where they are. First of all, we come over here and just quickly scrolling. The first structural clue that I see is right here, the word but, which is a flag flip-flopper. They soon took over the settlement, and they had the log cabins. So flip-flopper, flipping from one to the other. Let's take a look up here and see if there is another structural clue. At the time, that is kind of like a structural clue. We didn't count that one. Let's go over here and take a look. Where is that second structural clue? Hence, it's kind of a sneaky one. It's kind of a conclusion type of a structural clue. Those are the two here. Conclusion and flag flip-flopper, switching from one direction to the other. Number 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at 3. 3. Describe the author's use of the timeline. If you come over here, you see that the author talks about background information the king wanted to establish, and then sent over the people in 1638. They landed, they made a fort, and then in 1642, the Dutch took over the settlement, and then they had log cabins there. And then it says, today, log cabins are part of being a symbol for the pioneer spirit. So you can kind of see the timeline on there. Once again, it's super important you follow along with what the author is trying to do. Pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next question. The next question here is problem number 4, using the Scooby-Doo technique. What's another word for realm on line 6? We go up into paragraph 1, line 6 here. It said realm. The Swedes claimed an area near there for the realm of Sweden. They're going to claim something for Sweden, so you could probably say the country of Sweden. That would probably be on track. The people of Sweden, something to do with Sweden and Swedish people in the country. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next problem. It's number 5. Number 5, the word notched in paragraph 2, line 3 most likely means. We are going to use the vacuum cleaner on this one, kids. We're going to take our answer choices and plug them in for the word notched right here in paragraph 2, line 3. Here's the answers. A, sanded, B, chiseled, C, carved, and D is grinded. Let's go ahead and go back up and see where it says notched. Here is the sentence in question. The cabins were built of notched logs, carefully fitted together without the use of nails. Answer choice A says sanded. Plug it in using the vacuum. The cabins were built of sanded logs, carefully fit together without the use of nails. I'm not really liking that one a whole lot. I feel like, wait a second, log cabin and sanding them? Every time I've seen a log cabin, cultural coding, kids, never really had those logs have been sanded, so I'm going to cross that one out. Answer choice B says chiseled. The cabins were built of chiseled logs, carefully fit together without the use of nails. That sounds okay. Put a dot by that one. B. Answer choice C. C says carved. The cabins were built of carved logs, carefully fitted together without the use of nails. That works too. Put a dot by that. We have B and C so far. D says grinded. The cabins were built of grinded logs, carefully fit together without the use of nails. That sounds weird. We'll cross that one out. Now, we have 2 answer choices that both work. What is the one that feels like is going to be dealing with logs? We have carved and we have chiseled. Well, whenever I think of both of carving or chiseling, what do you normally carve? Carve a pumpkin or carve wood. Those are the 2 things, according to cultural coding, that pop in my head that I've seen before somewhere down the road. A chisel, I feel like I'm going to chisel ice. So I'm going to have to go with answer choice C, which says carved, for problem number 5. You see what I did? I used a combination of techniques on that one to get the right answer. Let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 6. From this paragraph, you can conclude that, if you look over here, here's a quick overview of the whole passage. The whole passage is about the king of Sweden saying, hey, we want a colony in the New World, which is America. So he sent people over there, and they just landed. And when they landed, they didn't really know where they were. So what they did is they just took some land. But it turns out that the Dutch actually owned that land, and they were a little bit salty because Swedes were stealing their land. So there's a conflict and some friction. So what ended up happening was the Swedes eventually moved on. But they had already built a bunch of little log cabins. And then it goes into describing what the log cabins were like, basically how they're put together. And in the end, here is a conclusion, hence log cabin is a sign or symbol of a pioneer's spirit. Pioneer is another word for saying a settler or somebody that's in a colony, Scooby-Doo style. Let's go over here and see what we can conclude off of that. Answer choice A. A says the Dutch were there for trapping beaver pelts. No, we can never really say anything. Beaver pelts feels like that's off topic here. Let's go ahead and get that out of there. Answer choice B says the Dutch wanted to cooperate with the Swedes. Cooperate, vocabulary word. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. First of all, cooperate means to work together. We have co, which means two. Cooperate means taking two parties and working together as a group. That is not true because there was friction. We crossed that one out. C, the Swedes moved on to a warmer location. Warmer never says anything about warmer. It says another location. Why did they leave? Chances are they left because of the friction. D, the Swedes left because of a conflict with the Dutch. Conflict and over here, friction and conflict say the same thing. Scooby-Doo style, kids. Correct answer for problem number 6 is going to be answer choice D. 7, using the vacuum cleaner technique, locus in paragraph 1, line 3 most likely means. Here are our answer choices. We're going to plug them in and see which one sounds the best. A, situation, B, site, C, place, and D, point. Let's go ahead and scroll on up. Here is locus. Here is the area in question. And let's go ahead and plug our answer choices in. Situation is answer choice A. They landed in America at an angular situation along the Christina River. That is definitely sounding weird. A, we can be crossed out right away. B says site. They landed in America at an angular site along the Christina River. Go ahead and put a dot by that. That sounds okay. C, place. They landed in America at an angular place along the Christina River. Go ahead and put a dot by that one, and that sounds okay as well. Let's take a look at the last one. The last one says point. They landed in America at an angular point along the Christina River in what's now Delaware. That sounds okay as well. Now, if you look over here, we have 3 answer choices left. What are we going to do now? Let's do a little bit of cultural coding. We have site, place, and point. We have to look at the other words in the sentence and see which one is going to make the most sense. We have angular. That's our word, angle. When we have an angle, these are all angles. If you look, every single one of these angles has a pointy spot. So, the better answer choice, even though all 3 of them will work, the better answer choice is going to be point. Answer choice D for 7. Let's go ahead, take a look at the next one. It's problem number 8. We're going to use the vacuum cleaner here and take a look at the word snug on line 2, paragraph 2. What does the word snug mean? The answers that we're going to use are tight, charming, cramped, and miniature. Let's go ahead and scroll on up to line 2, paragraph 2. The word snug is right here. We're going to go ahead and plug our answer choices in. Here is the sentence in question. In 1642, the Dutch soon took over the settlement, but, structural clue, let's keep that in mind, not before the Swedes had built snug little cabins, had built tight little cabins, as A says. B says charming little cabins. C says cramped little cabins. And D says miniature little cabins. Well, let's use a little bit of good stinky rule on this one here. So the first thing is this. The Dutch took over the settlement. For the Swedes, that's definitely negative. We see a flag flip-flopper here, which tells us we're going to flip from negative over here. That has to be positive, because here are the Swedes again. So something has got to be positive. That means that this word here, snug, has to be a positive word. Let's go back down and look at our answer choices and see we can start crossing some stuff out. Answer choice A says tight. Tight feels, a tight cabin, that feels negative. Charming is positive, put a dot by it. Cramped, that feels like it's really small or too small. We can cross that one out. Mini cabin or charming little cabin. Which one feels more positive? Answer choice B is going to be the correct answer on that one. Miniature feels like a mini cabin. I'm not sure if I want to live in a mini cabin. I'd like to live in a charming one, though. 8B, using a combination of stuff there. Let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 9. And number 9, we're going to use some prefix stuff here. We have paragraph 1, line 5. We're going to look at the word proclaimed. Prefix pro and the root word here, claimed. What do we know about the word pro? What are other words that we've seen before? Pro means like it's going to be positive word. Professional. Produce. It's moving in the correct right direction. Produce. Product. It's like to make something. So we're going to proclaim. We're going to claim and we're going to proclaim. So it's going to be positively saying something. Maybe almost even like boasting a little bit. Now, what we'll do is let's go back up here according to, that's some prefix stuff. Let's look at the surrounding area. At the time, the Dutch proclaimed the area in the name of the Dutch. The Dutch owned or said, hey, this is our stuff. They proclaimed. They claimed the area, but they proclaimed. It's going to be more of a positive word, more of a stronger word on that one. So you see, we used a little bit of prefix, we used a little bit of cultural coding, and we used a little bit of reading the sentence around, as well as good stinky on that one. Let's jump on in. We'll take a look at the next problem. It is problem number 10. Which word reflects the author's attitude towards the Dutch? What do we know about the Dutch? We come back up here. We see that the Dutch were in conflict with the Swedes. And eventually, because of this conflict, the Swedes decided to go somewhere else. Then the Dutch took over the Swedish colony. So what does the author think about the Dutch? Maybe a little bit on the negative side. Let's go ahead and take a look at our answer choices, keeping that in mind. See, we used a little bit of good stinky rule on that one. Answer choice A. They had a weak army. Well, if they took over the fort and they were in conflict or friction with the Swedes, and the Swedes eventually left, you can cross that one out, because you would assume, because of all that, they might have a stronger army. B, they had mighty forces. Maybe, let's put a dot by that one. C, they were friendly neighbors to the Swedes. That is off topic. They never said that. In fact, they said that there was friction. When there's friction between the two colonies, you can assume that that is going to be a negative thing that can be crossed out. D, they minded their own business and kept to themselves. They didn't mind their own business because, once again, there was friction. We can cross that one out. Better answer choice here is answer choice B. Now, mighty forces and friction. You see how those two words kind of go together? B for problem number 10. Problem number 11, using the concept of cultural coding. What else would you expect the Swedes to encounter as potential problems that made them decide to leave? Well, number 1, Delaware is kind of near New York. It's kind of in the northern part of the United States. And in the wintertime, you can assume that it probably gets pretty cold there. So maybe weather. Maybe they ran out of food. Maybe in the wintertime they weren't able to plant food and their store of food ran out. Maybe they weren't able to go outside and hunt because the Dutch were there. Maybe they weren't able to build warm enough houses. Maybe they had trouble finding firewood because the Dutch were outside. They would fight with them every single time that they went out to get firewood, food, hunt, and so forth. So many different reasons that we could come across potential problems for the Swedes to pack up and go to another place. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last problem for today. It is problem number 12, the good stinky rule. We're going to find 2 words, label some words in here. We're not going to go through this. This is lesson number 8. By now, you already know what this is. Let's just quickly find some words in here. Establish, that's going to be positive word. New world, that's positive. Let's see. When you land, that's going to be positive. We have found a community. Founded a community. We have friction, that's going to be negative. Abandon, that's going to be negative. Log cabins feels like it's positive. Native homeland, that's going to be positive. All kinds of words in here that are going to either be positive or negative. Plenty of lumber and so forth. Symbol of pioneer spirit. Spirit is positive. There you have it. It is the answers and explanations to the final quiz. It's quiz number 2 on video, lesson number 8, the vacuum cleaner, kids. Remember, see what we did here? We start pulling all of our stuff together and using all the 8 different things that we've learned from lessons 1 through 8. That's it. We will see you again in the next video lesson. If you have any questions about anything you learned, please see Professor Thomas. Bye for now, kids.